Howdy-ho, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Oilers. So, let's get right down to the roster moves for this week. The big news. Zach Hyman is back. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. It made a difference, folks. It made a big difference. It didn't get the team playing team defense. I don't think any one player can actually do that, but it made a difference. He was winning the board battles. He was going to the front of the net. He was mucking. He was grinding. He's only had one game since before I'm filming this, because I'm filming this in the afternoon of Monday the 17th, before the Oiler game against Buffalo tonight. And just looking at the stats Zach had in his first game back, he had 23-10 time on ice, 11 hits and 1 assist. Well, you can't ask for much more from a returning player. That's huge. So Zach's back, and hopefully that gets the rest of the team rolling and, doing the stuff that they need to be doing that they haven't been doing. The physicality, the grinding, the cleaning the slot, the intensity in the play. Hopefully that wears off on people. The other news is Troy Stecher was to make room for Zach Hyman. Troy Stecher was waived, and Isaiah Howard was sent to the minors because he didn't need to be waived. As for Stecher, he got picked up by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Troy, I'm sorry. All Oiler fans are sorry that we put you in the position that you end up a Maple Leaf. Nobody deserves that punishment. Nobody. But all serious joking aside, thank you for your time in Edmonton, Troy Stecher. You were a rotationary defenseman. You came in as a 7, 8, 9 defenseman, and you filled that role admirably. And you played above your weight a number of times in the past season or so. Sadly, Troy was having a really hard time this season. He was not good out there. Him and Bouchard were terrible out there. So, you saw the writing on the wall. He was, as I said, an 8-9 defenseman on this team, and you can't carry that many players. There's roster limits, there's cap limits. You just can't carry them. So they tried to send him to the farm, and the Maple Leafs picked him up on waivers. So hey, it's not all bad news. Now Troy will get to work on his golf game. His golf game scores should improve dramatically now that he doesn't have to worry about playing hockey in Toronto. As I said, Isaiah Howard was sent to the minors. He didn't have to clear waivers, so he was automatically assigned down there. This is the best thing for Howard. Howard is not ready for the NHL. Honestly, I think he should have been sent down 10 games ago. It was clear he's got the offensive juice, and that gets you excited, but he doesn't understand positional play. He doesn't understand back checking. He came from university. University hockey is offense, 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 offense. That's it. They don't play defense. They don't play physical. So this is where he excelled. Well, that's not the NHL. So it's the best thing for Isaiah Howard to go down, whether it's for 1 month, 2 months, 5 months, for the whole year. Go down to the farm, play 23 minutes a night, get put on the special teams, and learn all the little idiosyncrasies that are required to play in the NHL. So I wish Troy Stecher all the best in his future, and I hope Howard all the best, and I hope he can develop into a real NHLer for, as I said, for 2 months from now, 4 months from now, a year from now, whatever it takes. Go to the farm, learn your craft. Simple as that. The other news this week was Kapanen was put on long-term injury reserve, so sounds like he'll be out two to three more weeks minimum, maybe longer. They haven't said, but if he's on long-term injury, that's safe bet. It's two weeks plus. Also, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins was put on injury reserve, but not long-term. So, hopefully he'll be back in a few games. Haven't heard anything. Don't even know what his injury is, but hopefully he's back in a few games and team is healthy. The last thing I want to talk about is Trent Frederick had a monster game the other day where he fought well above his weight class. And when he was asked about it, what he said was, by nature, I wasn't a guy who initiated things. but I would stand up for my teammates in a second. I had to learn that sometimes your role is to be a lightning rod. When you go out there and poke and prod guys, when the focus gets more on you and it can get teams out of their focus. That's right. That's what we need from him. And honestly, he hasn't supplied that yet. Not even with the fight. Like, the fight was a instant gratification sort of thing, but it doesn't address the overlying problem. We need more physicality out of Fredricks. He was brought in to replace Evander Kane. Thus far, he has not replaced Evander Kane, not even 50%. And he got the long contract, so we got to see more from him. If Hyman can throw 11 hits after being injured for that long, Trent Fredericks can throw 11 hits. We're not asking for a fight every night, but you got to go out there and you got to make your presence felt. Other team needs to know you're on the ice. And Fredericks honestly hasn't done that this season. So hopefully now that Hyman's back and, these players can start seeing, this is what it's going to take. And they'll get, start molding. Like, we should see this type of play from, in my opinion, from Fredericks first and foremost, from Noah Phillips, and we do see a bit of it, but I think Phillips can be a lot more assertive. Janmark does crash and bang. Henrique, Henrique's been pretty missing for the whole season, to be honest. And Lazar, Tomasek, all those players I just named. Oh, and Podkolzin, sorry. Those players I just named, they should all be out there bumping, grinding, making the other teams know they're on the ice every single game. Yeah, so that's what that is. All right, now it's time for my favorite session, making fun of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So what do we have for you this week? Well, okay, let's start with this. The immortal Hulk Hogan. We're going to be talking about standings this week. And doesn't that picture say it all? I'm not going to go into any more detail. That's pretty obvious what's going on there. Move off of the Leafs for a second. We got a great fan cosplay of Brad Marchand. That is funny. And to finish up with the Leafs regarding standings, two things at the bottom of the Atlantic: Titanic and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's what I have for you this week on making fun of the Toronto Maple Leafs. It never gets old, people. It never gets old. I can do this forever. Alrighty, let's do the game recaps from last week. Oilers versus Philly, Game 18, November 12th, 2025. So with RNH out, there was some line shuffling going on in this game. Nothing too amazing. So this game went to an overtime, but it almost didn't. With 23.5 seconds left in the third period, Philly looked to have scored the go-ahead goal. Slot shot redirected 3 times off of players and goes by a triple screen into the net. 2-1 for Philly. Goal is under review for offside. No goal. Play was deemed offside, and it was offside by just a little fraction. So it was 1-1 with 36.8 seconds remaining in the third, and that ended, and we went to overtime, and the Oilers score at 3:41. Rosevich from Savoy and Wallman. Wallman battled in the neutral zone, got the puck to Rosevich. Rosevich pokes the puck to Savoy. Savoy passes, uses his speed, and then passes to Rosevich, who one-times it into the net. 2-1, Oilers win. The 3 stars I had for this game were Rosevich, game-winning goal, Skinner, .950 save percentage, and Savoy, 2 assists. The 2 slugs I had were Fredericks and Knobloch. So Rosevich is quickly becoming my favorite Oiler this season and seems to be one of those players who can play with anyone, even when not scoring. You notice him. Skinner had a .950 save percentage and Savoy had the 2 assists. And that was it for that game. The next game we had was Oilers versus Blue Jackets, November 13, 2025, game 19. So in the pre-show, it was Tomasek is back in, Howard is in the press box, Regula is back in, and Emberson is in the press box, and Pickard is in net. And it was announced Hyman would be in the lineup the next game. So the Jackets won this game 5-4. The Oilers made a go of it at the end, but they just couldn't come back, and the Jackets won 5-4. Shots on net were 26-25 for the Oilers. What I wrote was, well, we got a 30-minute effort, but dominated in those 30 minutes. If we had showed up in the first half of the game, or if our skaters just worried about defense when it was in our own zone, this would have been a W. But once again, we didn't. Really simple as that. I really do not know what it's going to take for them to understand this. Rob Brown just nailed it. Oilers played well enough in the third period to win, but played poor enough defensively to not get a point. When Leon and McDavid were put together, they dominated. And I agree with Rob Brown. This game was all about Leon and McDavid taking over, and then a bunch of passengers filling in the third spot on that line. It wasn't all bad. Rosovich had another strong game. Podkolzin was good. Savoy continues to be opportunistic. Bouchard got 3 assists, but he also cost us 2 goals against. So Bouchard with his tale of two cities or whatever. It was a tale of 2 games. We need this team to play 1 game. 3 stars were Leon 2 goals, McDavid 2 assists, and Bouchard 3 assists. The 3 slugs were Majapani -4, Pickard 800 save percentage, and the team's defensive game. The only reason this game was close was Leon and McDavid and Bouchard's offense. The only reason this game was lost was the team's defensive play minus Phillips, Lazar, Nurse, and Janmark, who seemed to be the only players interested in playing defense in our own zone. Majapani was -4, so that's always a slug. Pickard was a miserable 800 save percentage. Now, that's not all on him, contrary to Bob Stauffer's claims, but Pickard needed to be better than that. Also, don't blame Lazar, Phillip, or Tomasek. I honestly don't think they got more than 5 minutes ice time all game. When I speak about no defense, I'm speaking about lines 1 to 3 and all defensemen other than Nurse. So yeah, that was that game. It was ugly. The next game we had was Oilers versus the Hurricanes, November 15th, 2025, game 20. In the pre-show, I said Hyman is back in. Howard is sent to Bakersfield. He doesn't have to clear waivers. Stetcher was waived to make room for Hyman, but was grabbed by the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I at the start of this video, you heard what I had to say about Stetcher, thanking him for his time. Skinner is in net and Tomasek is in the press box. This game went to overtime. Oilers scored at 4:41, Leon from McDavid and Bouchard. McDavid transported the puck up the ice, dropped it to Leon, who snapped it in the winner. It wasn't a super strong goal. It really wasn't, but, when you put a puck on net, sometimes good things happen, and that's what happened. So it was a 4-3 win for the Oilers. The shots on net were 36-23 for the Hurricane. So the Hurricane really badly played us this game, but we pulled off an overtime win. What I wrote was, well, I guess 28-minute effort is enough. Said before and say again. Imagine what this team could do with a 60-minute effort. The 3 stars were McDavid again, 3 points. Hyman, hell of a game. And Skinner. The 2 slugs were Regula, horrible game. Number 2 was the team effort for 32 minutes. It was non-existent. McDavid was flying tonight, clearly thrilled to have Hyman back. Hyman was a beast, hitting everything that moved, won board battles, took his position as net front presence, and got an assist. Skinner is the only reason we survived the 32 minutes of no-show in this game. As for the slugs, Regula was a turnover machine tonight, and the whole team, except for Skinner, no-showed for 32 minutes. And that's absolutely not acceptable. 3 shots on net for 16 minutes in the second period. And then the final game of this week's recap was tonight, Monday the 17th, so November 17th, 2025, game 21. Pre-show, amazingly doesn't seem to have any real news for a change. Skinner is in net. Only other thing being talked about is the future of Tomasek when Kapanen returns, and we need to find a roster spot. Tomasek will not clear waivers if sent down, so money is on Tomasek being traded in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So the worst team in the league, the Buffalo Sabres, won this game 5-1. Shots on goal were 31-29 for Buffalo. And what I wrote is, so once again, we see the Oilers play down to their opponents rather than force them to try and play to Edmonton's skill level. Louis, Jack, and Bob keep trying to make this about this imaginary excuse that it's just a bad matchup. And that's BS. We've seen this for years. This franchise always plays down to their opponent's level. That's why we struggle against bottom feeder teams. Buffalo was missing most of their top stars. 5 of their top 12 were out, or top 9 were out on injury. This game should have been an easy win. We've seen time and time again where we only get a 20-minute effort. Tonight, we didn't even get that. We got a 10-minute effort. The first 10 minutes of the third period, we had 2 shots on net, despite being down 3-1. 3 stars were Rosevich, the only goal, Podkolzin, he got in a fight defending McDavid, and Nurse, only defenseman trying to clear the slot so our goalies can see the puck. The Slugs, the entire team, other than the 3 names mentioned above and Skinner, for taking 50 minutes off. Simple as that. Rosevich got our only goal and continues to create his opportunities. Podkolzin defended McDavid, which is what I spoke about in the pre-show. Sadly, he was the only forward doing that. And Nurse, as I said, Nurse is the only defenseman on our team trying to clear the slot so our goalies can even see pucks. Darnell wasn't great this game. I'm not saying he was. He was -2 this game. But he was better than the other 5 defensemen by a pretty large margin. As for the Slug, what can you say? We got dominated by the worst team in the league. And making it worse, Buffalo is riddled with injuries to its star players. As I said, 5 of its top 9 players were out on injury. So really, we got dominated by an AHL team today. 90% of our chances were low percentage perimeter shots. Nobody was willing to drive the net today. Stauffer is blaming Nurse, but we lost because no one but Rosevich, Podkolzin, Nurse, and Skinner showed up to play. That's why we not lost. This loss was not on any one player. This loss was on the entire team except for Rosevich, Podkolzin, Skinner, and Nurse, because none of them showed up to play tonight. They took 50 minutes off. You're not going to win in the NHL playing 10 minutes. And again, we've seen this for years versus the bottom feeder teams, and we have. It's a culture issue, and it's a culture issue, and a culture issue isn't any one player problem unless you're speaking of McDavid or Leon. I could believe McDavid or Leon could drive the culture. None of the other players on that team can individually drive the culture of this team. This is an organizational issue, and it always has been. And that's my video for this week. If you like this video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. Takes 1 second to subscribe, costs you absolutely nothing, helps me immensely. Just hit the subscribe button on the bottom of the screen. Oh, always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage everybody to leave a comment. Come in, tell me, what do you think? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? Let me know. Also, leaving a comment really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.